waiting for a headset. Hopefully that will improve the audio quality for those of you who can't hear brilliantly. So I hope that you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be giving you a brief run-through of one of Google's latest advertising products, Gmail Sponsored Promotions, or GSPs. I will make sure that there's quite a bit of time at the end of this presentation to go through any questions that you might have. But if anyone wants to interrupt me during the course of the presentation, please do. I'd be happy to take your questions as they come in. Okay. And also, if anyone can't hear me, or if you experience any other technical issues, please just put it into the group chat, and we'll try and take care of it. All right. So, can everyone see my screen? Okay. All right. So in terms of an agenda for today, a brief overview of what GSPs actually are. I'm going to be taking you through a case study as well. We'll look at the engagement and targeting options that the product features, talk a little bit about GSPs on mobile, how to get started. I'm very, very briefly going to get you some optimization tips and tools. It's not going to be massive amounts of detail, but it will be enough to get you started. And then, as I said, at the end of the session, there'll be time for questions and answers. So in terms of what GSPs actually are, it's a beta ad format exclusive to Gmail. GSPs appear only in Gmail, not on any other GDN websites or any other Google platforms. The ads will appear as thumbnails on the right-hand side of Gmail of an expanded email, or as items within your promotions inbox if anyone is running with the promotions inbox. I expect that if you're a Gmail user, you will have seen a few GSP ads by now. After you click on an ad, the ads expand with full email functionality. So you can save the ad, you can forward the ad, you can interact with the ad as though it were a normal email. The ads are built in HTML for simple creative development. You get 3 different ad types: display ads, which are standard banner ads, standard image ads, form ads, where you can actually embed a form field into the ad and capture certain types of user data, and finally video ads, where you can actually embed YouTube videos into the GSP. And one of the greatest things about this format is that it is fully optimized to all devices. So outside of specific circumstances, there's no real need to build multiple ads per device. In terms of what the ads look like, for those of you who haven't seen them, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the actual teaser. After you click on the teaser, it expands into a full ad. And this example, you've got a video ad. Thanks. All right, so I'm just plugging in my headset very quickly. If anyone loses audio after this, please just let us know. Okay, can everyone hear me? Good. Okay. Has that improved with the audio at all?
Yeah.
Great, great. Okay, and of course, one of the most beautiful things about this ad format is once you've clicked on a teaser or a line item in the promotions inbox, you have 100% share of voice of the expanded email. In terms of why you would use Gmail sponsored promotions, this is a particularly versatile ad format. And it really is cross-functional, allowing you to achieve objectives throughout the full conversion funnel. The size of the advertising real estate, or the canvas that you have to work with, means that it's an incredibly effective mechanism for building brand and influencing consideration. And it also works incredibly well for performance campaigns, particularly the form field ads, because users are able to submit a call me back, or a query, or a request for a quote, or whatever the case may be, without needing to leave the Gmail environment and without there being multiple steps in the conversion process. We'll talk about achieving these different objectives in more detail shortly. The key benefits of the platform, we've reached the more or less optimum delivery rate where we're frequency capping the ads at 14 to 30 impressions per month, depending on performance. So that frequency cap is automatically decided by the platform based on the performance your ads are receiving. You'll see an open rate on average of 3.5%. It's incredibly cost effective. You really only pay per user. In other words, you only pay after the first click on a thumbnail or teaser of the ad. After the ad is expanded to a user, irrespective of the action they take, you're not going to pay any additional cost. So they can fill out a form field, they can save the ad, they can forward the ad to a friend, they can click on the ad, they can click on a link in the ad, or they can watch videos in the ad. You're only going to be charged for that initial click on the teaser. And the results that we've seen so far have been absolutely amazing. And you will see on par, if not better, performance compared to other display placements. And in some of the campaigns that I've seen, I've actually seen performance on par with generic search campaigns. So it is an incredibly effective medium. Needless to say, this is one of Google's newest and most innovative products. Really, really high impact platform because of all of the space that you have to work with and the multiple functionalities that the ad supports. The GSP dashboard itself, or user interface itself, is full of user insights. So outside of the standard metrics that you'll all be used to from AdWords, such as clicks and conversions, you'll also see a bunch of additional engagement metrics like saves and forwards, form field submits, etc. I'm going to talk to targeting in some detail, but a really important principle to take note of is that you're able to target actual users rather than cookies. And we've also got pretty good reach in South Africa. The GSP user interface itself will give you pretty accurate estimates of how many users your campaign will be able to reach based on the targeting criteria you select. But we're probably looking at plus minus 6 million Gmail users, or a maximum reach of 6 million users. So the reach is really quite substantial. Any questions so far? Okay. Looking at a case study very, very quickly, King Price were one of the early adopters of the GSP format, and the results that they saw were really brilliant. Throughout the total duration of their campaign, which lasted for a few months, they reached over 8 million users. They achieved an open rate of 3.3%, and sorry, let me just state, in terms of their objectives, this was primarily a performance campaign, so this really isn't a brand example, but it gives you an idea of how well the platform can perform. All they wanted to achieve was new customer acquisitions. Their CPL was 60% lower than that of their standard display marketing. It increased their overall display click-through rate by over 200%, and their Gmail sponsor promotions drove 30% of all leads coming from Google over the campaign period. So really a really stunning trial, and the results were very, very pleasing. In terms of the targeting options available to you, as I said previously, Gmail sponsored promotions are designed to reach users, not cookies. So you're actually able to target users using a bunch of targeting criteria that you'll already be familiar with from AdWords. The only difference being, instead of relying on cookie data, we're using actual user data in most instances, or in many instances. So standard targeting mechanisms are available: age and gender, geo and location. And then when stuff gets really, really interesting, you're able to target by keyword, very similarly to contextual campaigns. User interest verticals, very similar to the interest verticals that are available through AdWords. And then GSP-specific targeting parameters, domain. You're actually able to target users based on email domains. So if you want to target existing customers, for example, you could simply use the domain of the client that you're advertising for. Or if you want to target competitors, you could target the competitor email domains of your customers' competitors. And of course, there are a bunch of other strategies you could adopt there. If you're selling Xbox games, then you could target online retail domains, etc. The sky's really the limit. Product purchase targeting is also very, very interesting. You can target users based on the electronic receipts that they have in their inboxes. Really, really helpful, I think, for retail campaigns, although I could see applications across insurance and other verticals. You're also able to target by job, where you can specify specific industries and target users based on their career or job, or the job function. And then, of course, you're not really able to target by device, but you can split your campaigns out by device, effectively meaning that you can run laptop, desktop, and mobile device campaigns separately. A few ideas on targeting strategies, and just because of the time that we have available today, I'm unfortunately not going to be able to go through all of the targeting strategies. We can discuss targeting strategies in a little bit more detail at the end of the session. But just by way of an example, if you're going after new customers, you could exclude your existing customer's domain and then use a combination of demographic, interest, keyword, job, etc. targeting. Once you've run your campaigns for a little while, and assuming that you're using interest targeting, for example, you can start expanding those campaigns out into similar audiences or complementary domains if you're using domain targeting. If you're looking at re-engaging existing customers, then you can use domain targeting once again to target customers who are already clients. In terms of broader opportunities, from a mobile perspective, you can run ads advertising telephone numbers or call numbers with click-to-call functionalities. You could also include app download links on your GSPs. You can drive YouTube video views by embedding YouTube videos in the GSP itself. And obviously, any views that occur inside the GSP ad unit will count as video views on your YouTube channels. It's also a very effective way of driving website visits, and the beauty of the format of the ad units is that you can include multiple links in the same GSP ad unit. So again, using insurance as an example, you've got a customer who offers multiple insurance products. You could include links for car, home, life, short-term, portable possessions, etc. And then finally, lead generation, and we have seen really, really great results with lead generation in GSPs. Embedding a lead form in the GSP ad unit itself removes at least a single step from the conversion process, if not more, depending on what your client's application processes are. I'm going to talk a little bit about mobile specifically. First of all, the reasons why you would want to run your GSPs on mobile devices. So Gmail specific stats, we know that about 2 out of 3 active Gmail users regularly access their accounts from a phone or a tablet. We've also found, according to some studies, that 44% of Gmail mails were open on mobile devices. And then I'm sure, as most of you will have seen by now, if you've had a business review with Google, smartphone adoption in South Africa has skyrocketed in the past year. Already from Q4 last year, we've seen mobile growth rates accelerate dramatically, particularly smartphones. And it's important for any advertiser, irrespective of vertical, to be paying attention to their mobile strategy and their mobile campaigning. We've made life very, very easy for you with GSPs on mobile. As I mentioned, the ads are completely responsive, so there's no real need to build separate ads for mobile devices. There are some instances where you may want to, and I'll discuss those now. But if you have limited creative resources or limited production time, and it's as simple as creating a separate ad, which will render perfectly across all devices. Then some other ideas around mobile. Mobile can be quite a good way to target specific domains or keywords, to target users with past purchases from the Google Play or the App Store. So if you're driving app downloads, for example, a great way to target customers who regularly use apps is using domain targeting or even keyword targeting. And that's all I'm going to say about mobile. Are we all good so far? Any questions? Okay. Actually, sorry, one more thing. In terms of mobile CPAs, we have in very many instances seen slightly higher CPAs and more pleasing conversion metrics on mobile. If this is the case for you, if you know from experience that your mobile CPAs are better based on your AdWords campaigning on mobile devices than laptop or desktop, then it is advised that you actually separate your campaigns out by device. Another reason that you may want to do this is simply for budget control. So being able to decide on how much budget is invested on mobile and how much budget is invested on laptop or desktop. But outside of those reasons, there's no real need for you to do it. The ads will render just fine. Okay, in terms of getting started, it's actually the simplest process in the world. Unfortunately, you cannot create GSP accounts yourself, and the GSP user interface sits separately to your AdWords accounts. It's actually an entirely separate interface. You need to contact your Google representative to create an account for you. All you need to provide them with is a link to an AdWords account that you wish to link the GSP account to. We link accounts for two reasons. The first is from a billing perspective to identify that you're a customer on invoicing, and the second is for conversion tracking purposes. So GSPs currently, you're not able to generate AdWords conversion script out of the GSP interface. It has to be done through AdWords, or we have to rely on the conversion script that you're using in AdWords. So we link your GSP accounts to an AdWords account that contains active conversion scripts, and this is where we get a conversion count from. That being said, if you're running form field ads, we will count the number of form submits in the GSP interface itself. So your need for conversion tracking may be limited. In terms of billing, again, GSPs don't support consolidated billing because the product is still in beta and because it sits in a separate interface. So we do actually have to create an entirely separate billing agreement for you. It's really not a big hassle. After we've received the instruction to create the GSP account and after you've provided us with the relevant AdWords CID, we'll simply create a new billing order. Send the order through to you or your designated billing contact for approval. After the billing order has been approved, you're good to go and you can start creating and setting campaigns live. Campaign setup obviously sits on your side, although your Google rep would be more than happy to provide you with a campaign creation walkthrough, although the interface is incredibly simple and very, very intuitive. A couple of really important things I need to highlight here around account creation though. Consolidated billing I've mentioned, as well as the separate billing order. Because the product is still in beta, you're not able to set your own time zone. Time zone defaults to Pacific Standard Time, which depending on whether the US is in daylight savings or not, will be between 8 and 9 hours difference. So this is something that you need to take into account when setting live dates for your campaigns. And then the other thing to take note of is we've seen slight fluctuations in the daily budgets that are set in the interface with slight overspends or slight underspends. You're obviously protected from overspends with GSPs, you know, provided it's not your fault. You're not going to be charged, but all the same, it's worth keeping an eye on your spends quite closely, at least to start with, and also paying attention to the account level budgets that you load to the interface. All right, then moving into optimization tips and tools. As I said earlier, there really is so much that we could talk about here in terms of optimization and creative best practices and things like that. I'm really just scraping the tip of the iceberg in this session. That being said, if there is an appetite for it, we'd be more than happy to hold an additional session looking at advanced optimization features and in-depth creative best practices. So your first tip for existing AdWords advertisers, which I would assume all of you are, you can leverage existing AdWords data to build out your GSP campaigns. From a creative perspective, you can look at the banner ads that you've been running and identify any common denominators in your best performing banner ads and import those into your GSP ads. So if you found that there's specific calls to action which are working incredibly well, or specific images, then import those into the GSP interface. Obviously, the ads need to be scaled because GSPs are considerably larger than even the largest display formats, but basic principles like CTAs and imagery can be transferred. Domains, I think this tip is perhaps not as pertinent to our market as it is to the US and Europe. Regardless, you could look at top performing domains in your display campaigns and think about targeting those domains in your GSP as actual emails. So how this would work, if a user has a favorite website and they've signed up to a mailing list on that website, you could target the domain of that mailing list.
Good question. Is this going to be integrated into AdWords in the future?
Okay, good question. So the answer is yes, it will be, but we don't have any indication of timelines at present. All right, so back to domains. Another good example, as I mentioned earlier, was the iStore and the Google App Stores. If you are running an app promotion campaign, or if you're targeting an audience that is engaged with technology, then those would be good domains to target. Keyword targeting, you could look at top performing keywords within your account with the disclaimer that GSPs work the best with more general generic keywords. So the rule of thumb here, or the golden rule, is you aren't finding keywords based on intent in the same way that you would with a paid search campaign. You're finding keywords that indicate a user's preference or their interests or what they're currently interested in right now. So the keywords need to be slightly broader in scope. But if you were to refer to a very broad generic campaign and look at the results that you're getting on search, or even keywords in contextually targeted display campaigns, you could definitely import some of those findings into your GSP campaigns. And then finally, a lot of the existing AdWords tools could also work quite well with GSPs. So Display Planner to identify websites or domains to target, and then of course the Keyword Planner if you're looking for keyword ideas. The GSP interface has two built-in optimizer tools available. The first is Targeting Optimizer, which we recommend that you utilize as soon as your campaigns go live. There's really no need to accrue history to use Targeting Optimizer. All it does is expand your reach to similar users to the users that you are currently targeting. So with the formats where very often, especially if you're using niche targeting parameters, you may find that your audience lists are quite small. It's critical that you use Targeting Optimizer so that you have a decent sized audience to target. There's also a conversion cost optimization tool built into the interface. This has also worked quite well for longer running always on GSP campaigns. A big disclaimer here is the tool will not work well on new campaigns. You need a great deal of conversion data to actually inform the tool for it to run effectively. So your campaigns need to be running for a good few months before I would recommend employing conversion cost optimization. Worth bearing in mind is the conversion optimization tool does respect exclusions, and this is something I should have mentioned previously. In terms of GSP targeting parameters, you can also exclude audiences and domains. Basically, all of the targeting criteria that you can actively target, you can also employ as exclusions. So if there's specific age groups that you don't want to serve your ads to, specific domains and geos, or specific interests, etc., you can run exclusion targeting in much the same way that you would in AdWords. Then a few creative guidelines. If you are looking at GSPs for performance campaigns, make sure that your call to action appears in the top 100 pixels of the ad. In other words, you want your call to action to be above the fold, and I think this is pretty intuitive. Make sure that you have strong calls to action on the ad units. Focus on offers or discounts. The form field ads, the embedded lead forms in the GSP ad units work exceptionally well for lead generation. It's good to think of your GSP ad as a mini landing page. So deep links to specific products will maximize conversions in much the same way that deep links on a microsite or even site link extensions on paid search ads can increase conversion rates. Use language that mirrors your targeting to increase relevancy. So if you're targeting a specific geo, then mention the name of the place in the ad. This would work incredibly well for retail. So if you're sort of running a campaign for a fast food franchise or a coffee shop or something like that. And then I'm going to mention this a few times before this training session is done. You have to refresh your creative often with GSPs. The frequency cap on GSPs is relatively high at 14 to 30 impressions per month. For that reason, you need to refresh creative often to make sure that you're maintaining interest amongst audiences who have not yet engaged with your ads. We recommend that creative refreshes occur once every month. Obviously, this isn't always possible if you have limited production capacity. At the very least, you should be refreshing your creative once every 3 months. If you don't do this, you are going to see a gradual decline in performance, as well as actual volumes. From a brand perspective, use consistent imagery and color schemes to other advertising in the market. And again, I think this is a self-explanatory point. I don't think there are any advertisers out there who would want to run GSPs that completely defy any sort of brand rules that they already have. But if the question is asked, make sure that you include your advertisers' logos and any other visuals that are associated with their brand. Calls to action should focus on valuable brand engagements. So suggest that people connect with you on the social media channels they use, G+ or Facebook or Twitter. Direct them to YouTube, anything that your brand advertiser considers to be of value. It's also a good idea to encourage users to forward the ad to friends. And from the campaigns that I've seen, the forward rates and forward volumes have actually been pretty high. So people are inclined to share ads that they find interesting with their friends. And finally, leverage video to create a more immersive experience within the ad. You've got so much advertising real estate in GSPs. You can take advantage of it by embedding videos without having to dilute any calls to action or additional messaging that you want to include in the ad. You can even embed form fields and ads and videos in the same ad. So there's a lot of room to play with this ad format. Then in terms of creative, I'm going to take you through some basic guidelines now, but your Google rep will be able to provide you with a best-in-class creative gallery, which is really well worth requesting. It contains examples, I think mostly international examples of some of the best GSP ad units that we've seen. Really worthwhile going through. If you do production in-house, then share it with your creative teams. Otherwise, you can simply send it on to whomever's responsible for production, and it will give them all of the basic guidelines that they need to build effective GSPs. It'll also give you some really, really nice ideas for ads of your own, and it's quite a nice resource for inspiration. Okay, so the 5 top optimization guidelines for today, and as I said, these are really, really the most basic optimization guidelines that I'm sharing with you. Number 1, refresh creative often, as I've said. With each creative refresh, it's important that you experiment. So try different calls to actions, try different visuals, try different positioning of items in the ad unit itself, try combining a lead form with a video ad, go wild. But the point is, over a prolonged period of time, you'll start to identify trends and patterns, and you'll know what works best and when it works best. And this will ultimately make production a hell of a lot easier and simpler, and your campaigns will run far better. Balance targeting with reach, and this is a pretty tricky principle. With GSPs, we recommend that you target specific audiences in individual campaigns. So we don't want you to dilute your targeting parameters too much. This being said, for a GSP to run, you need to have a minimum potential audience of 10,000 users. And as I said, the actual interface itself will tell you what your potential reach is based on the targeting parameters that you set. So it's easy to see whether or not your campaigns will hit this threshold. If you are too broad in your targeting, you're not going to see great results, and you're also are not going to know what's working and what's not working. So we don't recommend overlaying multiple targeting types. So I wouldn't recommend overlaying domain targeting with interest targeting, or keyword targeting with domain targeting, etc. Try and keep the different targeting functions together, and as much as possible, try and use group similar audiences together. Obviously, keeping this minimum campaign threshold in sight. It's also worth noting that we've seen poor performance on campaigns that have too limited an audience. So you kind of need to find this middle ground between niche targeting or sort of highly refined targeting while still having a decent audience size to work with. Invest in mobile. Gmail access via mobile devices is huge, and mobile growth rates in South Africa are growing steadily, so you really can't neglect mobile. And then review the conversion metric changes over a longer period before making any major changes to your campaigns. So this really applies only to longer running or always on campaigns. But the point here is, don't make drastic changes with this ad format just yet. You need quite a bit of data behind you to inform your decision making. And you know, so this refers back to the cross-targeting optimizer. For example, don't employ tools like that until you have enough conversion data behind you to make intelligent decisions and for the tool to actually know which users to target. Don't make dramatic changes to your targeting criteria in long-running campaigns because it may not work in your favor. If you do want to experiment in the short term with different audiences, then run multiple campaigns. One more question, one more point before I go into questions, just on mobile for the performance advertisers. Lead forms don't always work brilliantly on mobile. So unless you've done extensive usability testing on how your lead forms render on GSPs on mobile devices, it may be a good idea to actually separate your campaigns out by device if you're running lead form ads, and having separate lead forms for laptop and desktop and separate mobile optimized lead forms for mobile devices, or opting for a different ad unit entirely. Okay, so really I've covered most of the basics, and we've got a good 20 minutes for questions. As I've said, we could speak in depth around optimization and creative best practices. So if anyone would like for us to hold a separate session looking at optimization in more detail, advanced optimization, and maybe looking through creative best practices and showing some examples of international creative, we'd be happy to do that. So just let us know if it would be of value. Otherwise, the floor is now open to you guys, so please fire away. Oh yes, and I've been told that we have a swag bag, a Google swag bag for giveaway for the person who asks the best question. I already have the question in mind, so fire away. Oh, and you can now unmute yourselves for the question session.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi there.
Okay. This is JP from Aqua. Just a question regarding targeting options. You mentioned that you don't recommend mixing the targeting options. Is that because they work in an and fashion where at only targeting that apply to both of those targeting options?
Exactly
so
right.
If we really want specific, we could actually.
Yeah.
But it's just not recommended.
Correct, yes. If you really wanted to, you could. The targeting works in an and fashion, and we recommend all targeting over and targeting. The reasons for it are, well, there are multiple reasons for it. The first is you've got greater budget control. The second is you can identify in a much shorter space of time which audience groups or which targeting parameters are more effective, which is slightly trickier to do where you're using combined targeting types. Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, so I see questions in the feed. Okay, we've addressed integration. Okay, planning tools that we can utilize to see potential audience sizes. So, Mike, I'm not sure when you asked this question. Oh, right now. Okay, so it's actually not needed. The GSP user interface itself will give you audience size estimates based on the targeting criteria you employ. So if and when you create your first GSP account, as soon as you start building out a campaign and selecting the various targeting criteria, such as interest groups or domains, in much the same way as the display planner in AdWords gives you an idea of the total audience you will potentially reach, you've got an almost identical tool in the GSP interface itself. And using that, you'll understand quite accurately what your audience size is, and if you actually need to add on additional targeting criteria to meet the minimum threshold for the GSP to run. GSP is an ad scheduling, so no, that feature is cool, no problem. That feature is not yet supported. I would expect that once the GSP interface is incorporated into AdWords, that the feature would be made available, but this is not something that I can guarantee right now. Obviously, we're aware that it would work quite nicely with ad scheduling. You can, of course, switch your campaigns on and off based on day of the week if you found that performance is better on weekdays rather than weekends. I have actually seen a few advertisers who see far better results on weekdays than they do on weekends. So they'll literally manually switch their campaigns off on a Friday afternoon and switch them back on a Monday morning. Yeah, I haven't got my golden question yet. It pertains to lead form ads. There's a hint for anyone who wants to swag that. Are there any other questions?
Are there, hi, it's Andrew here from Clicks to Customers.
Hi there.
Since you use the same conversion tag as you do the AdWords account, can you do, firstly, do you get any of those in the conversion reporting tab in AdWords? Does it show any of the funnels related around the GSP because it's the same tag? And then can you do any remarketing based off that, based off the search to GSP or vice versa?
Okay.
Remarketing.
Okay, those are two very, very good questions. Not quite a good question. I was looking for that. If no one asks it, then that's definitely going to deserve a swag bag. In terms of the attribution reporting in AdWords based off of conversion scripts, yes, provided you're using AdWords conversion scripts, you will have some conversion reporting, but there are some limitations around it. But for the basic AdWords attribution reports endemic to AdWords, then yes, you will be able to pick up conversion data off of the specific AdWords conversion events that you've created. As for remarketing, no, GSPs don't currently support remarketing, but again, and this is by no means a guarantee on my part, I wouldn't be surprised if that feature was released in the near future.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? No, okay, great. So I really thought this was going to be us, so I'll just go into it. So that question, by the way, has officially won the swag bag. Well done.
Something different about you. The swag now.
So for anyone interested in using the lead forms, I thought someone would ask, how is that data stored? How is it sent to your customer? Or how is the user data actually managed? So I'm going to proactively answer it. There are three different ways to manage the data submitted in a lead form. So let's assume that we're running a simple call me back form in a GSP where you're asking for a user's name, cell phone number, and email address. That information can either be sent to a designated Google Drive. If anyone's using Google Drive, you'll know what a Drive is. And you can basically submit it to a spreadsheet in Drive, where you would actually manually have to open the spreadsheet and then pull all of that data and do with it whatever you will. Feed it onto a call center or however you would want to manage it. Then two other ways that you can manage the data, which I think are more appropriate for larger advertisers. GSPs supports HTTP GET and POST methods, which is really, really important. I don't know if any of you remember the display lead form trial that Google ran, I don't know, about two and a half years ago. That sort of never really went anywhere. Unlike that trial, Google doesn't touch the data that users, or doesn't have to touch the data that users submit in GSP lead forms. So that data can be sent directly onto your client, either using an HTTP post or an HTTP GET, which is really, really great for, I think, anyone who makes use of call me backs and have concerns around user data and privacy and that kind of thing. Okay, so any final questions? Otherwise, that's us. I've saved you 15 minutes today. Nothing else.
No, thanks, that's great.
Great, great. It's a great pleasure, guys. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or reach out to your Google rep. These formats are dead easy. I mean, these campaigns are dead easy to create, and it's so simple to get an account off the ground. And if you do decide to trial a GSP, I strongly urge you to request the best-in-class creative gallery from your Google rep as well.
Chris, can we just ask Andrea to send us the deck?
Sorry, say that again.
Can I just ask Andrea to send us the deck? Or will you send it?
We'll send the deck out straight after this hangout.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Cool. No problem. Okay, it's a great pleasure, guys. Have a good afternoon.